Hello there everyone, it's Kathy with Paper Phenomenon. I'm here to demo how to assemble and attach my hollow hidden hinge binding system to your album cover. So regardless of how many pages and gussets your album has, you assemble this binding system exactly the same way every single time. For this particular example, I have a binding system that is going to accommodate 5 pages and it will have 4 gussets. All right, so it's a 2-piece binding system. And again, you assemble it exactly the same way every single time. All right, so the first thing you want to do is you want to number. You're going to cut and score according to your cutting guide if you're making one of the Paper Phenomenon projects, or if you've come up with your own measurements, if you're using my cheat sheet for the binding system and you've created your own album and you've measured and you've sized your binding system, again, you're going to cut and score, right, according to those measurements. And you want to grab a pencil, all right, and you want to number as follows. So your binding system has three sets of score lines, and then it repeats, right? So you want to number them. I'm on the dented side of the score line at 1, 2, 3. So that's hinge, hinge, gusset. Then you start the count again. 1, 2, 3 for hinge, hinge, gusset. And you keep on going. 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 3, 1, 2. All right? Your binding system always starts with hinge, hinge, and always ends with hinge, hinge. All right? So that's the number 1 and the number 2. So that's on the dented side. You're going to flip it over to the bumpy side, and you're going to do the count again. All right? So write down 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 3, 1, 2. Then you're going to apply your double-sided tape. Hopefully you're using Maker Basics tape in the 3/8 inch width. You can find that in my shop. And you're going to put tape from top to bottom on the number 1. That tape should be in between, in that space of number 1, right? So in this case, in between the cut edge and the score line. And in this case would be between the score line. So right down the middle. Okay? That's where your tape placement should be. On the flip side, your tape placement should be on the numbers 1 and 2. All right? And that tape placement should be located close to the center score line between spaces 1 and 2. All right? You don't have to be on the score line. You just want to be right at it. So you essentially should see about 1/8 of an inch space on either side of spaces 1 and 2. All right? So you want it close to the center score line between spaces 1 and 2. So this is space 1. You see that 1/8 inch space? There is the score line for 2, and you see that 1/8 inch space. Notice you can still see the space for that center score line. All right? That's your tape placement for the dented side. The bumpy side of the score line, your tape placement is only on the number 1. All right? So let's go ahead and finish this off. All right, and again, it doesn't matter how many pages you have, how many gussets you have. This is always the same process to assemble your binding system and then attach it to your album cover. All right, always the same. It never changes. All right, so let's finish this up. And it doesn't have to be perfect, right? These are just the guidelines that you want to follow when you are creating an album. Okay, these are the guidelines. If you went slightly over the score line, it's not the end of the world, guys. It's not the end of the world. All right, just do better on the next one. Okay, doesn't mean you have to start all over again. It'll be fine. Okay. What happens when you get tape right on that score line? When you put something in the pocket in that binding pocket, once your album is assembled, you put something in the binding pocket, your insert may stick to the tape because it's exposed on that center score line. And I'll demo. All right, I'll demo. All right, so we've got our binding system done. The side with the two tapes is the side where you attach. This will become your hinge. The side with the single row of tape is where you're going to actually make your hinge. So flip it over to the bumpy side, and what you're going to do is you're going to pre-fold between space 1 and 2. So right on that score line between space 1 and 2, you're going to pre-fold. Okay? Then you're going to unfold it, and you're going to remove the tape backing. Right? So be careful you're not doing it to this side, not this side, which is the bumpy side. Remove the tape. Stick space 1 onto space number 2. Okay, just like that. Then fold back onto the dented side. And if you look, you've created your first hinge. Okay, now you're going to pre-fold again between spaces 1 and 2. Okay, unfold. Remove the tape backing. Careful, remember, you're on the second set of numbers, 1, 2, 3. You're going to stick space 1 onto space 2. That's why it's important that you write the numbers down, because it gets a little hairy once you start flipping and flapping and flipping and flapping. All right? It gets hairy. I promise. Now, you know you're doing the right thing when you only start seeing 3s. All right, because we're sticking space 1 onto space 2. We're eliminating those spaces, so you should only see 3s. Again, pre-fold between space 1 and 2. Unfold, remove the tape backing, stick space 1 onto space 2. When you fold back, again, ta-da, it's like magic. You only see number 3s. Pre-fold in between the score line between space 1 and 2. Unfold. Remove the tape backing. Magic trick coming up. We will make spaces 1 and 2 disappear. And ta-da! Only number 3s, except that we have this last one to tackle, right? Pre-fold between space 1 and 2. And then remove the tape backing and make spaces 1 and 2 disappear, guys. Okay, there you have it. Now you should only see spaces number 3 on the bumpy side. All right, so you're now going to flip it over. You're going to fold your hinges in both directions. You should have your number of hinges should match the number of pages you have. All right. If you have 5 pages, you should have 5 hinges. All right. So there is your hinge system. Okay. So hollow hidden hinge is a 2-part process. So now we have our hinge system. Now we're going to do our what I like to call wingspan. So this is piece B. This is piece A. This is piece B. So piece A is a mirror image of each other. All right. So notice you have that that half-inch gusset, and then these measurements. These measurements are determined based upon the thickness of your album, and you get all of this information in my binding system sizing tutorial. All right, and that is linked in the description box for you all. If you're watching this on box.com, then you already have these measurements for your project. But if you're watching this on YouTube, there's a tutorial for sizing binding systems. That information is in there for you. All right. And again, it's linked in the description box below. But anyway, so what you want to do, again, the assembly is all the same. So these measurements are based on the size of your album, of your pages and your album. All right. So what you want to do is you want to put tape on the dented side of this half-inch space. You're going to do this to both pieces. Okay, dented side. And you want to put it close to the cut edge without going over the cut edge. Okay, so I'm lining it up with my cut edge, and I'm not going over that cut edge, but I'm closer to the cut edge than to the score line. Okay, so see that cut edge? You can see that little bit of black there, and then if you fold, you can see I'm closer to the cut edge than I am to the score line. All right, now you're going to fold that. Fold. And by the way, I'm using my Maker Basics black cardstock. You can also get this in my shop. And we are going to burnish. Okay, we are burnishing. All right, now we're going to grab our binding, our piece A, and we're going to flip it over, and we are going to, we need one for the right and one for the left hand side. So what you want to do is, if you're on the left hand side, your hinge should be on the left hand side, right? Notice that the wide part is on the right hand side. Okay, let's get that out of there. What you want to do is you're going to stick your binding system, your piece B, right onto your gusset, but you want to line it up with the edge of the hinge. Okay, remove the tape backing. Hinge, if you're on your left hand side, the hinge should be on the left hand side, and this wide part should be on the right hand side. All right, so there's my hinge. Fold it, sticking it onto the gusset on the left hand side. Line it all the way on the edge. Do not get fancy and get, off the edge. Right on that edge, and it should go from end to end. Burnish. See that? Now pull back, and you got this wingspan here. Flip it over. Do the same thing on the opposite side. So do not make the mistake and attach it like this. Goes this way. All right? That way. So you're essentially covering the binding system. All right? Like so. So now you're going to remove the tape backing. Fold the hinge down, and you're going to attach it right on the edge. And the hinge is, the fold of the hinge is going to line up with the edge of your piece A. Okay, and you're attaching it right onto the gusset, so right on that number 3. Right on the edge, guys, right on the edge. Okay, done. Open it all the way up. There is your binding system. You're going to flip it over. You're going to fold, fold. Just one fold. In, out. These two score lines right here should meet. Right there, they should kiss. You don't want them overlapping. Notice mine are not overlapping. They're, boom, right there, kissing. All right. There's a second score line there that you do not fold on. That score line is for me to help me line up my binding system right onto my album cover. So it's easy for me to see, that this is where I should be lining things up, because otherwise my binding system is so crooked, guys. It's so annoying. So I like that score line there. That score line should line up with the edge of your first and last hinge. Okay? Now what you want to do is you want to flip it over, and you are only going to apply tape to this folded part. Do not open it and attach tape. You want your tape to be, and you want to use double-sided tape, whether you're using tape or glue, you want it to be like this. Okay? And the easiest way to do that is grab some tape. All right, and in this case, I'm using a wide tape, and this is a, what is this tape? Score tape. All right, so you want from the fold out, from the fold out. Okay, not like this, but like this. And just line that up right on the edge, right on the edge, and tape it up. So from the fold, don't go over the fold. You do not want these two pieces to stick together, okay? Do not go over the fold. You want to be right on the edge or slightly off the edge. If you think you're going to go over the edge, align your tape slightly off the edge. Okay? Then I'm going to fill in the spaces with my 3/8 inch tape. Or you can do glue if you like. Okay? Glue is fine as well. I do not recommend glue for the binding system in this area here. Okay? You want to use tape, and I'll explain to you why. I always like to give you the why when I'm insisting on a specific thing. Okay? All right. So we have our binding system done. I haven't forgotten the why. All right. You can erase these numbers here if you want to. You can reinforce this if you want to with P3 tape. You can do Tyvek, whatever. You can reinforce this if you want. I don't think it needs it, but if you may think it needs it, you can do that. All right. Now, to attach your binding system to your album cover, you attach it this way in this folded position. Not like this, but like this. All right, fold it. Okay, you have your album cover, you attach it. So the reason why I insist on glue is the following. Tape, excuse me. You want this part of the binding system to stick onto this spacer tape here. And glue takes time to dry. It takes time. You want an instant stick, and that's what tape will do for you, okay? And you'll see in this assembly process. So what I like to do is the following. I like to put my binding system, you want to center it. I like to see my chipboard. So you want to center it, okay, to the chipboard. Right there, and once your hinges are centered to the chipboard where you want them, okay, and that's where I want them, I like to make a little mark on each side. And again, this is in the folded position, remember. Then I like to grab my T-ruler and bring that line all the way across the chipboard. I do not draw on my P3 tape, okay, do not. That way, when I am attaching, I line things up with these two lines right here, okay? With these two lines on my chipboard. Now, when you remove your tape backing, all right, depending on which side you want to do first, it doesn't really matter. You want to remove your tape backing, right? Whoopsie. One side at a time. You want to, one side at a time, and you want to make sure that you put your tape back on, because you only want to stick it to here first. So if you're using rows and rows of tape, it's nicer, right? Because, why? Because, you can remove rows at a time. So what I like to do, see that score line? It helps me significantly, okay? Because that score line tells me where to put my tape backing back on. Okay? That's what that score line, and it also helps when I'm lining things up with the edge of my spine. Okay? So that score line is very important to me. And once you attach it, you will not see the score line. The score line, again, magically disappears. All right. So now I've got everything settled, right? Ta-da. Oh my gosh. I'm so happy that happened. So you can see that these silly things happen to me too. All right. Be careful when you fold it. I went too close. Be careful when you fold it. So what you want to do is you position your album cover however you find it easier for you. And this is how I find it easiest for me. All right. You can remove, so I'm showing you this on purpose. You can remove that excess tape because, why, my friends? You can't see your lines anymore. All right. So I like to, don't worry about that. It's going to happen, but it doesn't ruin anything. Okay. I like to remove that excess tape. All right. And these are all precautions that I take just so that I can get my binding system on here straight. That's it, guys. If you are good at doing straight, then you don't have to do any of this. I'm not sure why I took my my cutter out, but my self-healing mat out, but I did. So that's it. These are all things that I do just to make sure that I can get it on there right. Now, careful when you fold it that they don't fold on top of each other. Okay, so you want to position this right over that line there. See that? See how great that line is? And then center it from top to bottom. And because your tape is only in the spine area, guess what, my friends? That's the only thing that's going to stick. And it'll be pretty straight. All right. This part is going to pop up. There's no pages attached, right? No biggie. So now you're going to burnish right on there. See that? Burnish. You can use a burnishing tool, of course. See how easy that was? There's going to be some fumbling. You have to get used to this part process here. But once you get it, you get it. All right, so your binding system is attached to your spine, but not. It's got this hollow in it, okay? And once you attach your pages, then it behaves itself, but right now it has nothing to give it any weight. So this is what it looks like, okay? It's just perfect. But it's not off your spine. It is on your spine. So the next step is to stick the binding system into your spacer. And this is important. And this is important why? I'll tell you why. Because if you're using cardstock to cardstock, doing this method will reduce the likelihood of you having any cracking in your spine. If you're using P3 tape to cardstock, it also reduces cracking on your spine, on the spine side. Okay? So what you want to do is you want to attach your binding system. You want to kind of fold it to the edge. You don't have to create a crease, right? We're not creating any crease. And you want to burnish. I like to put my tape backing there because it's important. Okay, so you want to put it like in the middle. And what you want to do is burnish up against the edge of your spine. So you got to kind of look for your spine and drop your burnishing tool in there. All right, right in there. And I'm going to come in close in just a minute so you can see. So that tape backing is so important. Okay, don't get it too close because you want it to stick in the tape, right? So that's why I say you want to get it about midway. Now gentle, right? You're not being rough with this. But you see how my cardstock is sticking right to the edge of the spine. See that? Right on the edge. Ah, there it is. So it's kind of drops into that on the edge of the spine and it sticks right onto that chipboard. So you notice here there's no crease. So what you're doing is you're dropping You're dropping your burnishing tool right along the edge of the spine. And you have to do it this way, otherwise you're not creating the space that you need. Okay? Right in there. And just burnish gently. You don't want to tear your cardstock. Right now you're breaking those fibers. You're breaking that paper in. Now you're going to move over before you remove that tape backing, and you're going to burnish in that spacer tape. Right? And then you're going to burnish up against the other side, which is the edge of the cover. Okay? So notice how I created that gusset, but no sticking yet. Now, once you create that little molded, that mold pretty much, right? You've molded the cardstock to this shape here. With that tape in place, now you remove the tape backing and it's going to stick exactly where it needs to stick. All right, now go ahead and burnish. And stick it in there. Okay, see that? Look at how perfect that is. So this is my spacer. I molded the cardstock to fit into that spacer tape. Now you're going to remove the rest of the tape and stick it down. Done. You're done with one side. Now we're going to do the other side. Okay, you're going to do the other side. And again, doesn't matter what your album size is, doesn't matter how many pages you have. This is what you do. Notice that my tape, the edge of my cardstock and that line no longer overlap each other, right? Look at all of that space, how much of that cardstock I kind of pulled into that space there. So there's lots of, like I've created an elastic band, if you will, like you have on an elastic band pants, okay? So there's all of that extra cardstock is in this space here, so the likelihood of your cardstock cracking goes down very significantly, okay? So that's what you want. You want to see that your cardstock and that pencil line no longer touch, okay? So on this side, look at right now before I stick it down where my cardstock and my pencil line are, right on top of each other. Now when I stick this into place, you're going to see that you're going to see the pencil line. All right, so I'm removing that tape backing, right? I'm going to put it back into place just enough to cover about midway or even a little bit more, whatever you're comfortable with, okay? And then I'm going to find with my bone folder the edge of my spine. And I'm going to push that paper into the spacer right along the edge of the spine. Right? Make sure that it's not sticking prematurely to the spacer area. You want it only to stick to the edge of the spine. So you're pushing, 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 pushing up against the edge of the spine. Okay? Right there. In there. All right, now that you've done that, with that spacer tape in place, you're going to, and you're still kind of pushing toward the spine, but now you're looking for the edge of the cover. All right, so when you're pushing down, you want that paper to stick in there without sticking. Now you're creating a little mold, right? Because we have that spacer tape in place. So you're pushing that cardstock into that spacer. So you're looking for the edge of the cover, and then you are pushing right up against that edge and dropping your bone folder into the spacer. So looking for the edge and then pushing down. All right. So it's a fast process once you get it down packed. But like I'm giving instruction, you know. Now look it. Fold that. Let's pretend it's glued in. Notice how you can already, you probably can't see it with the glare, but I can already see my pencil mark. Okay, I can see it already. All right, so make sure that you're pushing without your cover being folded. I folded my cover, forgive me. Your cover should not be folded. You want it flat. Okay, so now I'm going to remove my tape backing gently, right? Removing it. And now again, pushing, because I want it to go in there. Be careful, you're pushing, 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 pushing. You don't want it to stick prematurely anywhere else. You're following the same exact method. And then burnish up against the edge of the cover. And then once it's attached, once you're absolutely sure that it's attached, then you remove the rest of the tape backing. And then you stick the rest of the binding system down. Now in this case, you're kind of folding, right? Because it's in that space. So you're kind of folding it over the edge of the cover. And now, you can't see my pencil, but it's there. I can see my pencil mark, okay? We created space in this spacer area here. All right, now you burnish, my friends. Burnish, burnish, burnish. Okay, and your binding system is attached to your cover perfectly. This is how you attach the binding system to your album cover. Doesn't matter how many pages, doesn't matter how thick your gussets are. This is how you do it. All right? Then you attach your pages.